If you wiggle all over the place, it's going to take you longer to get to your destination. That's obvious, right? Well, apply that to front crawl. When you're trying to get to the other end of the length as fast as possible, straighter is going to be better. And all of that comes down to body alignment. When you see a swimmer wiggling their way down the pool, it could be a result of all sorts of things. Their head is likely to be moving excessively side to side. You'll probably see their hands crossing over their body and, well, their torso moving like some sort of inebriated worm. Okay, I'm very grateful to James for over-exaggerating this point, but in reality, it could be a combination of all sorts of things that are causing a swimmer to move like that down the pool. It can be hard to know what to address first. Is it the head movement, which is related to breathing? Is it over-rotation? Sometimes it's from a leg kick that is too large, or potentially the poor hand entry.
In reality, it'll probably be a combination of the above, and you might even need a swim coach to actually identify the specific thing that you need to work on. But today we're going to focus on hand entry, and we're going to give you 4 things that you might be doing wrong. Distance per stroke, long and smooth, reach. These are all words you'll hear to describe the perfect swim stroke, but they can all be a little bit misleading. You don't actually want to overreach in the front of your stroke, because this can be very inefficient. It's going to lead to a dropped elbow, a locked shoulder, or even over-rotation. You also don't want to go the other way and have a short, choppy stroke, because that will also lead to a lack of efficiency. The perfect hand entry is just in front of your head, your fingertips and hand going first before any other part of your arm, and then extending your elbow all the way out till it's straight without shrugging up your shoulder or locking that shoulder, so that you don't lose that efficiency. You kind of want relaxed reach.
An angled hand entering the water might look and seem smoother as it's reaching the catch, but in reality, it's going to be just adding pressure onto your rather vulnerable shoulders. Now, if you think about it for a moment, just put your hands out in front of you and have a look at what your shoulders are doing. They are rotating inwards, so internally rotating, and that's automatically going to be putting more pressure onto your already loaded shoulders. Now, as swimmers, our shoulders are naturally going to be vulnerable from the sheer amount of repetitive movement that we're putting through them in that angle. So we don't want to be adding to that strain at all. Now, I must admit, I am quite guilty of getting this one wrong. It's something that I did as a youngster in my stroke, and probably got away with it because I was very conditioned, I did a lot of swimming, I was strong, and I was young. Not so much anymore. Anyway, you don't want to overthink this one. More just concentrate on when your hand is entering the water, that it's fingers first, and that should naturally mean you're going in with that neutral position. And hopefully you don't really need to think too much more on that one.
Direction of hand entry is one of the easiest to understand when it comes to correcting that weaving across the pool. Obviously, if your hand enters sideways, you're then going to pull underneath your body to correct it, which is going to swing you sideways, which means your next stroke has to do the same thing to get you back straight again. However, this is exactly where a lot of beginners go wrong, because they see those elite swimmers pushing off and being really close to that center line in a really straight line. So they try and do the same thing and try and keep their whole body, including their hand, as close to that center line as possible. But you don't actually want that to happen with your hand. You want your body to go in a straight line, but you actually want your hand to enter just to the side of your head, in line with your shoulder, not in line with your head, so that your arm goes straight forward, and then your other arm on the other side of the midline goes out the same way. That will prevent that weaving left and right.
Well, we've looked at the length of your stroke and where your hand should enter the water, as James was discussing. Well, the depth at which your hand goes in is really closely linked. Now, your hand doesn't actually want to stay on the surface as it goes in, because if you think about it, on the surface of the water, there's more turbulence and resistance. But also, because if your hand is staying on the surface, your arm's going to be extended, and it's going to be near impossible to keep your elbow above your hand. So with that in mind, think of it as spearing the water as your hand goes in. You're going in at a slight angle, and then your arm is going to be ready to start the catch straight away. There's no need to have that pause between entering and catch, because it's simply just going to be wasting time and energy.
As with any aspect of your swim stroke, there are specific drills you can do to hone in on each thing that you need to work on. And we've got some drills to help you prevent that crossing over.
Yeah, well, for all of these drills, we would recommend that you pop on some fins, just simply so you can concentrate on what your arms are doing rather than try to stay afloat and moving forwards. Alternatively, if you don't have fins, you can also use a pull buoy. The re-entry drill. For this, you want to focus on one side at a time. Now, as your hand is just about to enter the water at the start of the freestyle stroke, bring your hand back so that it comes back towards your head as though it's sort of reversing the recovery, and then on the second time, take it through into the full stroke. Now, this just slows your stroke down and it gives you time to really assess on the direction and the angle at which your hand is entering the water. One arm extended kick is as it sounds. You're going to have one arm out in front of you extended, the other arm down by your side, purely focusing on the kick. But the idea here is to really think about the angle and the position of that leading hand. So you want to think of it as being underneath the surface at a very slight angle, as though you were about to start your freestyle stroke. The water polo drill. With this, it's near impossible to overreach because you're trying to keep your head out of the water. And as a result of that, you get a little bit of visual feedback as you can see what your hands are doing in front of you. Single arm into full stroke. Now this is just a development on from that extended kick that we started with. So start in that position for the first sort of 10 meters, and then you're going to go into swimming with a single arm, and then the last section of the length, I want you to swim full stroke. And this gives you time to really concentrate on your hand position and all the elements that we've already discussed. Now, as your hand enters, you've got your outstretched arm as a reference point to help guide you, and make sure that you breathe to the side of the arm that you're actually using or moving. Well, as you probably are now aware, that any movement of your body is going to affect your stroke. And obviously we focused on the arms and the torso, but your head does play a significant role. If you find that you're wiggling all over the pool, you're crossing over with your arms, even after correcting these smaller aspects, then it's probably the fact you need to look at your breathing. We have covered this in a whole separate video. So if you feel that excessive head movement is slowing you down, we suggest going and checking that one out.
Of course, it does also pay to only focus on one or two things at a time. So after you've watched this video and you feel like there's some things you need to work on, go try those, just one or two at a time. Don't get overwhelmed by all the things you're trying to think of. You can, of course, always come back and watch the video again to add another one or two things to think about once you've nailed those first ones. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that thumbs up button to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of our swimming videos. Happy swimming.